There was a time when heroes weren't just characters, they were ideals. John Wayne was the rugged cowboy, embodying independence and strength. Steve McQueen wasn't just the king of cool, he was unflinching and resourceful. Atticus Finch, a beacon of moral clarity and quiet courage. And Indiana Jones, he wasn't just an adventurer. He was a man who embraced danger with a weary smile and unshakable determination. These men weren't flawless, but their struggles and triumphs made them an aspirational. And then there was Luke Skywalker, the farm boy who became a legend. His journey wasn't just about defeating the Empire. It was about self-discovery, perseverance, and finding courage when all seemed lost. These heroes inspired generations. Now, Hollywood has a different message. Today, our heroes don't lead. They apologize. Masculinity itself has been rebranded or as something to be mocked, avoided, or outright dismantled. You see, heroes used to have conviction. Take Ethan Edwards, John Wayne's character in The Searchers. He was flawed, yes, haunted by his prejudices and driven by obsession, but his mission was clear: rescue his niece from Comanche kidnappers. He didn't stumble or hesitate. His flaws weren't part of his complexity, not his weakness. And what about Tony Stark? In Iron Man, he was charismatic, confident, and unapologetic, a man who transformed his flaws into strengths. But by Endgame, he was a shadow of himself. Consumed by guilt and hesitation, yes, character's growth is essential, but this trend of emasculating heroes extends far beyond Tony Stark. And then, of course, we can't forget Finn. Here's a character who could have been extraordinary, a stormtrooper turned rebel, breaking free from years of brainwashing. Instead, Finn spends most of the trilogy as a comic relief, relegated to the sideline while Rey eclipses him in every turn. Hollywood is turning potential heroes into bumbling sidekicks. And then there's Rey, Hollywood's modern female hero, designed not as a character, but as a symbol. Rey is overpowered, infatuable, and devoid of meaningful growth. In The Force Awakens, she defeats Kylo Ren, a trained Sith warrior, despite zero combat training, no lightsaber experience, and no understanding of the Force. This isn't just implausible, it's hollow. Compare her to Luke Skywalker. Luke's journey in The Empire Strikes Back was defined by struggle. He trained tirelessly under Yoda, wrestling with self-doubt and failure. Even then, he couldn't lift his X-Wing out of the swamp. Yoda's words, "Do or do not, there is no try," become a mantra for Luke, emphasizing the importance of perseverance and discipline. Rey, by contrast, lifts an entire mountain of rocks with ease. There's no training, no struggle, no growth, just raw, unearned power. Where Luke failed and grew stronger through his failures, Rey begins perfect and stays perfect. For example, in one of the opening scenes in the first film, Rey can miraculously fly a plane. She can fix a plane. Rey can, as you say, can fight a Sith Lord straight away. I mean, there is no growth, there is no struggle for her. And of course, the result is that Rey is an unrelatable character. She's a fantasy, a character who's impossible to connect with because she faces no meaningful adversity. Now, of course, let's talk about that duel. Kylo Ren, a Sith apprentice trained by both Luke Skywalker and Supreme Leader Snoke, is one of the trilogy's most formidable characters. Yet, Rey somehow is someone who doesn't even know what the Force was at the start of the movie, defeats him in single combat. And it's not just Kylo's injuries or arrogance at play here. Rey dominates the fight. This isn't a triumph, it's a shortcut. One of the sacrifices that we endure in the film. It's that sort of hollow girl power moment. And it completely undermines Kylo Ren and Rey. And of course, while we're on the topic of Star Wars, we cannot forget about Finn. He had one of the most compelling setups in Star Wars universe, a stormtrooper breaking free from the First Order, a man rebelling against his conditioning to fight for what's right. His arc could have been legendary. Instead, Finn becomes the comic relief sidekick, relegated to shouting and running in circles while being overshadowed at every turn. Even when he wields a lightsaber against Kylo Ren, it's not treated as heroic stand, but as a futile attempt further undermining his role as a hero. And then, of course, we cannot forget about the tragic case of Luke Skywalker. In the original trilogy, Luke is represented as hope, determination, and the triumph of good and evil. He faced incredible odds, Darth Vader, the Emperor, the weight of the galaxy, and emerged victorious not because he was perfect, but because he grew strong through his failures. But in The Last Jedi, for example, Luke is almost unrecognizable. A man who redeemed Darth Vader, the most feared Sith in the galaxy, now hides away in fear and bitterness. He abandons his friends, his family, and the Jedi Order, becoming a caricature of cynicism. Instead of training Rey, he mocks her. Instead of embodying hope, he rejects it. And in his final act, he dies. Not as the heroic Jedi Master fans loved, but as a broken man who barely redeems himself. You see, this isn't character development, it's character assassination. Luke Skywalker was the beating heart of the original trilogy, and The Last Jedi tears the heart out, all for the sake of subverting expectations. Rey's dominance continues throughout the trilogy, further sidelining characters like Finn and Kylo Ren. Kylo, arguably the most interesting and layered character in the sequel trilogy, is constantly undermined to make Rey look stronger. His vulnerabilities are exploited, his conflicts brushed aside, and his skills rendered meaningless in the face of Rey's inexplicable power. The result is a story where struggle is replaced with shortcuts, growth with perfection, and balance with an agenda. You see, this isn't about whether Rey is a woman. Great female heroes exist. Leia Organa, Wonder Woman, Ripley from Aliens, Sarah Connor. These characters earn their victories through grit, pain, and sacrifice. Rey is different. Her victories come prepackaged, free from the trials that made Leia, Wonder Woman, bit of a bad example. I mean, it's an example. Ripley or Sarah Connor make them so iconic. You see, Hollywood isn't empowering women by sidelining men or giving us overpowered protagonists. They're diminishing the storytelling, turning potential heroes into hollow symbols, and reducing once great characters like Luke Skywalker and Finn into mere props. You see, the tragedy of the sequel trilogy is how much potential it had, and how much of that potential was wasted. Rey could have been the aspiring hero if only her journey had been treated with the same care as Luke. Finn could have been the groundbreaking protagonist. His arc could have been something that the space opera deserved. And Luke could have been a mentor, a legend, a beacon of hope, if only the writers respected his legacy. It's not just that Hollywood sidelines its male heroes. You see, it mocks them. Once symbols of strength and courage and competence, they're now the butt of the joke. You see, let me start with Thor, Love and Thunder. Thor started as one of Marvel's most commanding heroes, a literal god. In the early MCU, he was brash but noble, learning humility through struggles. By the time Thor Ragnarok, however, his character begins to shift. While humour can make a hero relatable, you see in Ragnarok and in Love and Thunder, it reduces Thor into a clown. His failures are milked through laughs, losing his Mjolnir, being humiliated in combat, and becoming the butt of jokes by Loki, Hulk, and even his allies. And then, of course, there is the Avengers Endgame, where Thor hits rock bottom, depressed and guilt-ridden after failing to stop Thanos. He turns to alcohol and video games to cope. While this could have been an opportunity for a genuine exploration of grief and trauma, Marvel plays it all for comedy. Thor's beer gut becomes a running gag, his mental health struggles trivialized by cheap laughs. Even in the final battle, Thor's diminished state is a stark contrast to the heroic figure he once was. You see, this isn't growth, it's regression. Thor's arc, which could have showcased his journey back to strength and self worth, is sacrificed on the altar of humor. Instead of inspiring the audience, he becomes a punchline. And see, Thor isn't the only one. And then there is Indiana Jones. The original trilogy gave us a hero who was daring, resourceful, and unrelenting. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, but his courage and determination always won the day. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indy outsmarts the Nazis and faces supernatural forces head on. In The Last Crusade, he provides his worth through intellect and heart, choosing the humble Holy Grail over the lure of power. But of course, in Dial of Destiny, Indy is no longer the hero of the story. He's portrayed as a feeble, out of touch, constantly overshadowed by Helen Shaw, his younger counterpart. She lectures him, mocks his choices, and often takes the lead while Indy stumbles behind. Even his signature ingenuity is absent. The film prefers to frame him as a relic of the past rather than a man who can still rise to the occasion. You see, instead of celebrating Indy's legacy, Dial of Destiny treats him like an outdated joke. The once iconic adventurer is reduced to a shadow of his former self, undermining the qualities that made him a hero for generations. This isn't homage, it's disservice. Pattern isn't confined to action heroes. You see, modern sitcoms and commercials are rife with clueless dads, men who can't cook, clean, or even parent without constant supervision. They're portrayed as bumbling fools while their wives roll their eyes, stepping in to save the day. These aren't just jokes, they're cultural touchstones that reinforce the idea that masculinity is inherently flawed or incompetent. The message is clear. Masculinity isn't just being ignored, it's being mocked. Hollywood has shifted from celebrating strength, courage, and resolve to ridiculing the very qualities that make a hero. And consequences of this shift are profound. This isn't just about movies, it's about culture. Boys today are growing up in a world that tells them masculinity is toxic. They're told that strength is aggression, confidence is arrogance, and that their very identity is something to apologize for. And what are their role models? On one hand, you have hollow caricatures, like Thor or Kylo Ren. But then on the other hand, you had heroes like Atticus Finch, who are fading into obscurity. John Wayne, who's considered too masculine, too much of a butch Hollywood man. Charles Bronson, for example, Steve McQueen. These people are to be told that they are not good enough for to be masculine quality heroes. And see, today's heroes, they stand for more like punchlines and plateaus. They aren't being shown to be how the man was, how the man should have been. Conclusion. This isn't about nostalgia or going back to the past. Of course, the past is the past for a reason, and we must always look forward and strive forward to show growth and progression. It's about balance. We need heroes who embody strength and vulnerability, men who can lead without dominating, characters who inspire without overshadowing. The best stories, Wonder Woman with Steve Trevor, Katniss with Peter, don't tear one gender down to evaluate the other. You see, this isn't about nostalgia or going back to the past. You see, the past is the past for a reason, but we must always move forward. We cannot look in the past to look forward. You see, this is about balance. We need heroes who embody strength and vulnerability, men who can lead without dominating, characters who inspire without overshadowing. You see, the best stories, they show us what's possible when men and women rise together as equals. They don't push one gender down to rise another. They have equal balance. You see, without equal balance, you have a terrible story. With a terrible story, you unfortunately ain't making any money. But anyway, it's time for Hollywood to do better. We need our heroes to inspire us to be stronger, kinder, and braver. Now, tell me, what what sort of films do you think don't show good masculinity? Do you think masculinity is not good in films anymore? What how do you think we could improve masculinity in films? Well, let me know in the comments, and if you agree, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. So let's talk about what real heroism it means, because we cannot afford to lose it. But anyway, it's been me, the Cinephiles. I hope you have a lovely day today, and I will catch you all very, very soon. Ciao for now.